Have you noticed this? Your grocery bill at the end of the year isn't rising because you're buying more. It's rising because the system is quietly pulling money out of your wallet day after day. Items that were once considered essentials are steadily creeping up in price, disappearing from shelves, or being replaced with lower quality versions without any warning to shoppers. This video helps you see clearly which foods are truly essential, good for your health, and consistently well-reviewed, so you can plan ahead, buy earlier, and avoid budget pressure as prices continue to climb. You'd be awesome if you liked this video.
Wow!
1. Olive oil. Olive oil is something many households use every day without much thought, until the price starts making people hesitate right in front of the shelf. In the past, olive oil was simply used for light sautéing, salad dressing, or dipping bread. But over the past few years, it has slowly shifted from a go-to pantry item to an expense people actually have to think about. The reason isn't just the price. It's the role olive oil plays in modern eating habits. As more people cut back on animal fats and fried foods, olive oil has become the default choice because it's heart-healthy, easy to use, and works with a wide range of dishes. That popularity has steadily pushed demand higher, while supply has become increasingly unstable due to extreme weather and rising production costs. What matters is that olive oil isn't something that's easy to replace. You can switch between regular cooking oils, but olive oil has a distinct flavor and function of its own. Many dishes lose their familiar balance without it. One practical advantage of olive oil is that you can buy it ahead of time and use it gradually. When stored in a cool place, away from light, and properly sealed, olive oil maintains good quality for a long time. This gives consumers more control, buying when prices are still reasonable and using it at a normal pace, instead of being forced to purchase when prices have already been pushed up. Toward the end of the year, when cooking becomes more frequent, olive oil turns into a foundational ingredient you can't really do without. Keeping a few bottles on hand isn't hoarding, it's simply making sure your cooking isn't disrupted. When olive oil is always available in the kitchen, you don't have to adjust meals based on price swings or supply changes, and your household budget is easier to manage during a season filled with extra expenses. 2. Fresh milk. Fresh milk is something many families buy out of habit, rarely thinking twice, until the price starts rising steadily, with no sign of coming back down. A carton of milk in the fridge may seem small, but it's tied to many everyday routines: children's breakfasts, morning coffee, cooking, baking, or simply a glass of milk before bed. What makes fresh milk especially sensitive is how hard it is to replace in the short term. You can cut back on sweets or delay buying snacks, but with milk, especially in households with children or older adults, reducing consumption often leads to clear inconvenience. That's why, when milk prices inch up, consumers usually absorb the cost rather than stop buying it altogether. In reality, milk prices don't spike overnight. They rise gradually due to multiple factors: animal feed costs, transportation, labor, and distribution. Each factor may increase only slightly, but together they turn milk into a heavier and heavier line item in the household budget. By the time people notice, their monthly grocery bill already looks very different. The key point is that fresh milk doesn't always cost the same. There are periods when prices are stable and supply is plentiful, and times, especially toward the end of the year, when availability tightens as demand rises. Shoppers who pay attention often buy milk according to these cycles, rather than scrambling to purchase it at the last minute when supplies are low. 3. Coffee. A morning cup of coffee isn't just about staying alert. It's a familiar way to start the day. When the cost of that habit goes up, the sense of loss isn't really about money, but about the disruption to a daily routine. What's notable is that coffee doesn't rise in price in a loud or sudden way. It creeps up gradually in small increments. A few extra cents per bag today, a little more next month. By the time you look back, your total monthly spending on coffee has changed noticeably, even though you're drinking the same amount. For people who drink coffee every day, this impact is more obvious than with almost any other consumer item. Unlike many foods, coffee is also highly affected by weather, harvest conditions, and transportation. A poor crop or higher logistics costs can immediately show up in prices. Consumers don't have many real substitutes because tea or energy drinks can't replace the familiar comfort of a properly brewed cup of coffee. One advantage that many people overlook is how well coffee can be stored if handled correctly. Whole beans or ground coffee kept sealed in a cool and dry place can maintain quality for a long time. This makes buying ahead, purchasing a bit extra, more practical than buying small amounts repeatedly during periods of price volatility. 4. Maple syrup. Maple syrup is something many people only notice when breakfast feels like something is missing, rather than an item they plan for in advance. In reality, it's one of the foods most vulnerable to price swings, because its supply is highly concentrated and difficult to scale quickly. When changes happen, maple syrup prices often jump instead of rising gradually, leaving shoppers unprepared. Unlike many seasonings or sweeteners, maple syrup doesn't have a true equivalent in flavor or function. You can substitute honey or artificial syrup, but the taste and overall quality of the dish will be noticeably different. For families who regularly use maple syrup for pancakes, waffles, baking, or drinks, switching temporarily is usually just a last resort. What makes maple syrup especially worth considering is its exceptional shelf life. When stored properly, a bottle of pure maple syrup can last for years without spoiling or degrading. That's rare for food, and it's why experienced consumers often buy it early when prices are stable, rather than waiting until they urgently need it and have to pay more. Another overlooked factor is that maple syrup isn't an impulse item. It's tied to routine. Once you're used to its flavor, not having it makes breakfast feel incomplete. That's why when prices rise sharply, people don't easily give it up. Instead, they're forced to cut back elsewhere. 5. Frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables are often seen as a backup option, used only when there's no time to shop or when fresh produce doesn't look appealing. In reality, they're a food category that's gaining more respect, especially among families who want to eat healthier while keeping costs and time under control. The biggest strength of frozen vegetables is harvest timing. Vegetables are typically picked at peak freshness, then flash frozen to preserve color, texture, and most of their nutritional value. In many cases, frozen vegetables are actually more consistent than fresh produce that has been sitting on store shelves for days. This helps daily meals rely less on whether the vegetables at the market look good today. From a budget standpoint, frozen vegetables significantly reduce waste. You take only what you need and return the rest to the freezer, instead of rushing to cook everything before it spoils. For busy households or those cooking in smaller portions, this is a clear advantage over buying large bundles of fresh vegetables and throwing half of them away. Another benefit is versatility. Frozen vegetables work easily in stir-fries, steaming, soups, noodles, fried rice, or stews. They shorten prep time without making meals feel rushed or careless. At the end of the year, when everyone is busy, having vegetables ready in the freezer makes home cooking much easier. Like the video if this surprised you. 6. Vanilla extract. In many family kitchens, there's a scent that instantly creates a feeling of warmth. The smell of freshly baked goods, warm milk, and familiar sweets shared during gatherings. Few people ever name it, but when it's missing, everything suddenly feels flat. That scent comes from vanilla extract. Vanilla isn't an ingredient you use often, and it's not something you reach for every day. But when you do need it, it's almost indispensable. Just a few drops can immediately add depth and balance to a dish. And because it's used sparingly and slowly, many people don't notice how much the price of vanilla has changed over the past few years. What sets vanilla extract apart from most other foods is that it doesn't come with pressure to buy and use right away. On the contrary, Pure vanilla becomes more stable over time, and its flavor can even mellow and blend more smoothly. That makes it one of the few ingredients where buying early carries no real risk, only greater control. Vanilla also isn't something that can be easily replaced with a cheaper version. Artificial flavorings may create a quick sweetness, but they lack depth and often make dishes taste fake. For families who bake, make desserts, or simply keep a few familiar recipes for the end of the year, pure vanilla plays a very specific and irreplaceable role. 7. Nuts. Nuts are often grouped into the snack category, but when you look closer, they're actually one of the most foundational foods for many households when spending becomes more sensitive. A small handful may not fill you up right away, but it provides steady energy, healthy fats, and protein that few convenience foods can match. What makes nuts increasingly valued is their flexibility. They can be eaten on their own, added to salads, mixed into oatmeal, used in baking, or relied on as a quick supplement when main meals are scaled back. As prices for meat, fish, and dairy continue to fluctuate, nuts become a buffer option, helping meals stay nutritious without driving costs up too much. Another advantage is their long shelf life and easy portion control. Nuts don't require refrigeration, don't spoil quickly, and can be pre-portioned for gradual use. For busy families or those with flexible eating habits, this significantly reduces waste compared to many fresh foods. Nutritionally, each type of nut plays a different role. Almonds are rich in vitamin E, walnuts provide omega-3s, cashews supply essential minerals, and peanuts are familiar and widely accessible. When combined, nuts stop being a side item and become a steady source of nutrition in daily life. 8. Canned tuna. Canned tuna is a staple many families keep in their pantry because it's convenient and easy to plan around. It doesn't require refrigeration, isn't tied to shopping schedules, and is ready to use as soon as you open the can. When you need a simple meal, tuna gets the job done without much thought. From a nutritional standpoint, tuna provides a clear source of protein, making it suitable for simplified main meals or quick side meals. Compared to many other convenience foods, tuna contains fewer extra ingredients and pairs easily with carbs and vegetables. Just mix it with rice, pasta, bread, or salad, and it's ready to eat. No complicated cooking required. This is especially helpful on busy days or when options in the fridge are limited. Another practical point is predictable cost per serving. Each can provide a manageable portion, making it easy to control intake without worrying about buying too much and wasting food. When fresh meat or fish prices fluctuate, canned tuna helps keep the budget more manageable while still delivering solid nutrition. Tuna also has the advantage of a long shelf life. When stored in a cool, dry place, it can last for years without affecting quality. This allows families to buy in batches when prices are reasonable, instead of making last-minute purchases at higher prices. For households with irregular schedules, this is a clear benefit. Keeping canned tuna on hand isn't about replacing fresh food entirely, it's about having a reliable backup for meals. Knowing there are always a few cans in the pantry makes meal planning easier and reduces time-related pressure. 9. Wine and beer. Wine and beer aren't everyday necessities, but they're among the product categories that react very quickly to price changes. A shift in import costs, transportation, or taxes can show up on store shelves almost immediately. That's why alcohol prices often rise ahead of many other items, even when consumption habits stay the same. For wine, the key factors are origin and time. Most commonly purchased wines rely heavily on imports, and production follows long seasonal cycles. When supply tightens, there's no quick way to compensate in the short term. As a result, new price levels tend to stick for a long time and rarely return to previous lows. Consumers usually realize this only when a familiar bottle suddenly becomes something they have to think twice about. Beer isn't exempt from this cycle either. Beyond raw ingredients, packaging and transportation costs play a major role. A rise in the cost of cans, bottles, or logistics can push beer prices up almost instantly. Unlike fresh food, beer doesn't allow for flexible portion adjustments. so the impact on spending is often more noticeable. One advantage of wine and beer is their storability and the ability to buy ahead. Wine, when stored properly, can maintain stable quality for a long time. Beer is also easy to store if kept cool. This creates a financial buffer for consumers, buying when prices are still reasonable and using them gradually, instead of purchasing in a rush after prices have already gone up. 10. Butter and dairy products. Butter and dairy products are staples that appear regularly in daily life, especially toward the end of the year when cooking, baking, and eating at home become more frequent. These aren't impulse purchases. They're items people reach for out of habit because when they're missing, meals immediately feel off. Butter is a foundational ingredient in many familiar dishes: light sautéing, cooking, baking, or simply spreading on bread. Without butter, many recipes need to be adjusted or skipped altogether. For families who cook often, butter isn't an extra, it's part of the kitchen's core. When butter prices change, the impact on household spending is felt right away. Other dairy products, such as milk, cheese, cream, and yogurt, play a similar role. They're tied to breakfasts, snacks, coffee, cooking, and the dietary routines of both children and older adults. This is a category that's hard to cut back on quickly because substitutes often cause inconvenience or disrupt familiar tastes across the household. One practical consideration is that many dairy products can be purchased in cycles and stored ahead of time. Butter can be frozen, shelf-stable milk has a long expiration date, and cheese can last quite a while in the fridge if stored properly. Preparing butter and dairy products early isn't excessive stockpiling. It's a way to keep cooking and daily routines running smoothly during the busy end-of-year period. 11. Avocados. Avocados are something many families buy weekly, not because they're special, but because they're easy to use and solve quick meals. Just cut one open and it's ready to eat, with bread, in salads, or blended into smoothies. No cooking, no complicated prep, yet they still provide a filling and energy-rich option for a light meal. For busy households, avocados are often chosen for convenience. When there are avocados in the kitchen, putting together breakfast or a snack becomes much simpler. Compared to many other fruits, avocados keep you full longer and don't require pairing with many extra foods, making them a go-to choice when people want something quick but satisfying. Avocados are also highly versatile. They work on their own or paired with eggs, vegetables, rice, or noodles. When other foods require longer cooking times or more prep, avocados help shorten preparation without making the meal feel rushed. That's why, once people get used to having them, their absence becomes noticeably inconvenient. Another practical advantage is flexibility in how they're purchased. You can buy a mix of firm and ripe avocados and use them over several days, avoiding the need to eat everything at once or throw food away. With a bit of planning, avocados give shoppers more flexibility and reduce the need for frequent grocery trips. What matters most isn't stocking up excessively, but being prepared enough to avoid being caught off guard. When you understand which items are truly essential and which ones are worth buying earlier, end-of-year grocery shopping becomes much easier. Meals maintain their familiar quality, the household budget isn't jolted by sudden price increases, and you don't have to make rushed decisions under pressure. That's the clearest advantage of being a thoughtful shopper. Which tip from the video surprised you the most?